Hey guys, what's going on? So in this video, we'll be learning about first class functions. So by definition, first class function is a term used in programming when functions are treated just like any other objects or variables. Now in programming languages like Python and JavaScript, we have functions as first class functions, while this is not the case with any other programming languages like C, C++, and Java. Although I think in Java we can actually instantiate a function, but then still it cannot be considered under the category of first class. So this means that in Python, functions can be passed around, tossed in as arguments to other functions, and even can be reassigned. Okay, so let me actually quickly walk you through what exactly do we have here. So we have a function saying +1, and it takes an integer number as the argument and returns the incrementation of that number by 1. So to call this function, all you have to do is type +1 and pass any number, say 4. And this would actually run it and will return you the result. Okay, now to prove that functions in Python are just like other variables and objects, let me go ahead and rename this +1 function. Okay, so let me declare a variable, say re equals to, and let's reassign or let's rename the value of +1 to re. So we type +1. Now this is how we would rename a variable, right? So suppose say we had something like x equals to 1, and if you do y equals to x, and then upon doing something like print x, print y, they will both give us the answer 1. That's because y here simply points to the data which is stored inside the x. Okay, so similarly here, if I do go ahead and do print +1, and if I go ahead and print re as well, now remember that I did not use brackets here. That's because I did not want to execute this function yet. Now if you are really new to function and you don't know about basic things about function, you can go ahead and watch the video about functions that I created. I will give you a link to that in the description, or you can click on the card that appears at the top right corner. Okay, cool. So repeating again, I did not use the brackets here because I did not want to execute the function. Now if I go ahead and run this, you will notice that both of them gives me the same exact address. Now the reason being that +1 is actually pointing to the object, which is actually a function, and re is also pointing to the function object. Cool. So if I do something like re equals to +1, and if I pass a value 10, and if I go ahead and print re, this would actually print the value which is returned by this +1, because now we are executing this function which actually returns as the incremented value of number that we passed, and number that we passed was 10, and which will return as 11, and this 11 will be stored inside re, and we will get the answer as 11. Now since I told you earlier that functions are just like any other variables or objects, this means that we can actually take out this bracket, and if I assign this over here, you will notice that it would still print me the same answer. Now this pretty much justifies the part that functions also behave like any other variable or objects. Cool. Now this is something unique that other programming languages like C, C++ never had. That's why function in Python is called first class functions, since we can use them as first class objects like string, integer, float, etc. Okay, so let me quickly remove all this and let's spice things up. Now things are gonna get a little bit weird. So if you remember that we can store the first class objects like string, integer, and float in some other data structure like lists, right? Well, it's the same case for functions too, since functions also are like the first class objects. The answer to this is yes. Let's explore it right now. So let me actually go ahead and copy 3 to 4 functions. Okay, so I have 4 functions over here, and +2 will actually take a number and increment the value by 2, +3 will increment the number by 3, and so on. Okay, so now let me go ahead and create a list, say func list, and inside it I'll pass all these function names. So let me go ahead and type +1. Now I would not put a brackets over here because I really don't want to execute that function. Instead, I'll just reference to that function using this name. So I did +1. Similarly, let me do +2, +3, and +4. Okay, now let's access each function via a for loop. Let me type for function in func list print out, and now let's execute it by putting a bracket. And remember, all these functions take an argument, a number. So let me actually put a number like 10. Now if I go ahead and run it, okay, before that let me clear the screen. Now if I go ahead and run it, now you will notice that each of these functions are executed over here. Now when we did +1 on 10, the answer became 11. When we did +2 on 10, answer became 12. +3, answer became 13. And +4, the answer became 14. Okay, cool. So now before I finish this, let's explore one more case where we pass function as an argument to another function, just like any other first class objects or variables. So all this example directly proves you that functions inside Python can actually be considered as objects like strings, integers, and floats. And to just top it off, let me give you one more example. Let me quickly go ahead and delete all this, and let me keep those two functions, and let me come over here, let me clear the screen. Okay, so now let's pass a function as an argument to another function. Okay, so let me quickly give you a scenario over here and a neat example through which we can understand how we can pass a function as an argument to another function. So let me quickly go ahead and create a function, say list modifier, and inside it we will take a list as an argument. So let me name it as li, and a function that we're going to pass on, let me name it as func. And inside it, we are going to modify the list that we pass with either of these functions. So list, which is initially empty. Now for each element inside the list that we pass, we want to modify that element with either of these functions, say +1, append that resulting value to the list, and then we will return. So if you don't understand, no need to worry, let me explain you what I am going to do now. So we want to do result.append, and inside it we want to pass a function that we're passing later, and the function would be either any of these two. So let's say we want this +1 function, and +1 function takes in an argument integer, which is a number. So we'll pass that element which is present inside the list. After performing the operation, we would append this entire result to the result, and let's return that result. Now let's actually make use of the function that we wrote above. Let me actually print out list modifier of, now the first is the list that we're going to pass. Let's pass 1 2 3 4, and the function that we're going to pass as the argument. So let's pass +1 as the argument. Let me copy that and paste it over here. And now if I go ahead and run this, you will notice that current list is 1 2 3 4, and if I run, you would see the resultant list is 2 3 4 5. So what exactly happened here was we defined a function list modifier. Inside it we passed a list and a function as +1, and this function takes two arguments, list and a function, and inside it we initiated an empty result list, and we access each individual element present inside the list, and we perform the function defined by the +1 over here. So as you can see here, +1 takes a number as argument, so we take the element inside the list as an argument, and it returns the element +1, and the returned value is appended to the result, and we return the result. Now notice that if I just simply do +2, this would give me the number that's present inside +2. So let me go and run it. 3 4 5 6. Very well. Now to give you a heads up, we can also nest a function inside another function, which we will actually cover in the next video, as it can get a little bit complicated and in a concept called closures. Cool. So I think by now you have understood the concept of first class functions. It is a really cool feature of Python that many intermediates might not even know about. Okay, now you might be thinking, but why would we even want to know about this property? Well, we could also use the function the normal way, and it also does the job, right? Well, using functions the normal way would do the task, but without the knowledge of first class functions, you would be missing out on a whole lot of so many programming concepts and certain best practices that will make development way more easier and professional. Also in the later videos, when we will discuss about closures, decorators, and even in object-oriented programming, we make use of this property to understand them and the above concepts that I just told even further. Alright guys, that's all for this video. I hope you really understood and enjoyed this first class functions video. So to just briefly sum it up, functions inside Python acts as the first class objects. And if you like the video, you can support us by subscribing to our channel and hitting the thumbs up button. Also, you can spread the word to others who really want to learn more about Python and other tech stack. And this will not only give us the opportunity to teach them, but also will help our channel to grow. Alright guys, see you in the next lecture.